still think you can talk him down before he starts his big ritual?
That ritual is going to tear down the veil. The only thing separating us from the Fade and an endless number of demons.
Dragon Age The Veilguard is the long-awaited new installment in the legendary Dragon Age series from the legendary developer BioWare. After playing through it and throughout all the discourse surrounding this game, while it's definitely not perfect, I did really enjoy Dragon Age The Veilguard. But let's talk about it. Hi guys, DPX here reviewing today Dragon Age The Veilguard. And before we get started, you know what to do. Be sure to like the video, hit the bell and leave a comment, or I will leak your document.
Time to get arrested, especially if we...
Starting off with the good, one thing that BioWare is known for is their stories. And I will say, when it comes to Dragon Age The Veilguard, in most areas, it nails the story. The gist of the story is there is this big bad guy, and your character gets together a team to stop the bad guy to save the world. It's simple, yet compelling, and it's helped by the performances, and especially the branching paths. This is another thing that BioWare's games and their stories do very well, and the branching paths in this game are pretty cool, as, like it normally is, certain choices affect the story of the game. Additionally, without spoiling, there are certain characters from previous Dragon Age games that make cameo appearances in the story, which I thought was cool. Then there is also the combat. I will admit that the combat in Dragon Age Veilguard is rather simplistic, and most people will say it's boring, but I found it to be fun. There is, of course, the skill tree for your character and your party members, and there are abilities like dodge rolling and parrying, which always felt so cool whenever I pulled it off, but overall, I enjoyed the combat. There's also a character creator, as there always is with BioWare games, and games like this in general, really. It's very detailed, and there are many options, and I was perfectly able to make my character look somewhere in between goofy and pretty cool. But in addition to just customizing your character's looks, there are other details they get to customize as well. For example, you get to select a class for your character. You can pick from like a warrior to a mage to like a rogue. Additionally, you get to pick a faction, which is sort of like their like background. You can choose from Grey Wardens, Veil Jumpers, Shadow Dragons, Lords of Fortune, the Morn Watch, or the Antivan Crows. This is nothing new, but I think it's neat. And on top of being able to customize your character, you also get to customize the Inquisitor, which I thought was cool. I also really liked the world within the game. It's sort of an open world, and it just feels big in scope, which I always dig. The boss fights were pretty cool too. Some got annoying, but they were ultimately fun. I will also say that there was a worry that Dragon Age The Veilguard was not gonna perform well on a technical aspect, but it actually does perform very well. Sure, maybe the game performing well is a low bar, but first off, this is BioWare coming off of Mass Effect Andromeda and Anthem, but also, the game in performance mode genuinely performs outstandingly. And as for the visuals, I will have more to say about the actual visual style and aesthetic of the game, but in terms of the graphics and how crisp it is, Dragon Age The Veilguard looks stunning. And lastly, the music. I feel like BioWare doesn't usually disappoint with the music.
You got them away free and clear.
Good. Whatever my frustrations with them, it feels good to have helped my people again. Thank you for allowing me to help. Chance to infuriate Elganon was a reminder of simpler times.
Moving on to the things I'm more mixed on, first off, I was kind of surprised by the length of this game. Playing through the main story should take you about like 20 hours to beat, which I know is about average for games these days, but it's not average for BioWare, and even then I've heard people's playtime clocking in at even less than 20 hours. It's only in the mix and not bad, because I don't think you can judge a game's value based on length. Sure, that's part of it, but you gotta look at the whole package you get, and there is so much more to do in this game, but it was something I noticed. Another mixed thing is something that I have to be very careful with how I talk about this, because, you know, the fact that it's in the game is not the issue. But in Dragon Age The Veilguard, there are certain side quests where you get to know the other party members a bit more, and they touch on the subject of identity, if you know what I mean. Like LGBTQ, you know? And of course, it's great to see like gay characters or trans characters or non-binary characters in games, but it does feel a little out of place, or you're just not there for it, you know what I mean? I'm not saying I hate the fact that it touches on like that topic and how someone might be struggling with their identity, but it just doesn't fit the game and is not quite what you come to a Dragon Age game for. It's solely optional, and I'm all for inclusivity, but maybe it could be done better in future games.
Are you kidding me?
I assure you, I am deadly serious.
We don't have time to play Who's the Greyest Warden.
On to the bad. First things first, I just want to say I did really enjoy my time playing Dragon Age The Veilguard, and I will give it a positive score, but the game is not perfect, and there are many issues to talk about. First off, perhaps the biggest complaint you've heard about this game is the dialogue, and yes, the dialogue leaves a lot to be desired. You might have heard other reviews say that the characters are, quote, talking like HR is in the room, or talking like they're in therapy. And I have to agree, as that's kind of like how everyone talks. I feel like Rook, you know, the main character, they call him Rook, his dialogue for the most part is perfectly fine, and a lot of the villains, like Solus, talk like how I would expect them to, but every other character talks like they're trying not to offend anybody, and when they maybe don't talk like that, the dialogue can become cringy. People have said it's like dialogue from a Pixar movie, and Pixar movies have good dialogue, of course, but it doesn't translate well into a game like this. And what certainly doesn't help the dialogue is the facial animations. Let me show you this clip.
Nothing grand or cosmic, no setting fire to the sun, it was just talking. Politics. I wish they were monsters. Something grand and terrible. Seeing them like that, they're no better than Tevinter nobles.
Notice how the tone does not at all match the facial animation. It's just so awkward, and maybe the dialogue wouldn't be so bad, or at least noticeably bad, if the facial animations and expressions of the characters match the dialogue. Another thing I don't love, and many people have also mentioned this about the game, and that's the character designs. I don't mean to throw shade at them again, but the characters look like characters from Pixar, and specifically the Pixar movie Onward. I wouldn't say it's got that Fortnite aesthetic, as some people have said, but I don't like the character designs or art style. As for other issues, the game crashed on me once, only once, but if it happens at all, I have to mention it. And lastly, I mentioned how you get to customize the Inquisitor, which is definitely very cool, but really the Inquisitor is not that important. I mean, yeah, they are somewhat important to the story, but they show up like 4 times total, and normally I wouldn't mention this, but why do you have me customize the Inquisitor if they barely show up, and, you know, show up so little that I forget they're in the game?
Everyone suit up. All hands for this one.
Still can't believe it. They're attacking Weishaupt? The Wardens aren't prepared for that.
The gods are going straight for the throat, unless we cut theirs first.
Overall, look, Dragon Age The Veilguard is honestly a game that I should not like. The dialogue is bad, the facial animations are bad, and the aesthetic and characters look like a cartoon. Not to mention, it's a lot shorter than I was expecting. However, I found the combat engaging enough, as well as the story really solid, along with the world. But this is an interesting case. I haven't mentioned this up until now, but towards the beginning of Dragon Age The Veilguard, I didn't hate it. I don't even think I disliked it, but it wasn't anything too crazy, you know? It wasn't like, I wasn't loving it. But the game started to win me over the more I played, to the point where I can say I really enjoyed it. But that does make Dragon Age The Veilguard a very hard game to score, because part of it was nothing out of the ordinary, and then the other part was actually really damn good. And there are some issues that do kind of affect the whole game, but other things that I really liked. So after thinking long and hard, I'm gonna give Dragon Age The Veilguard a very rare 7 3/4 out of 10. You can equate that to 7 or 8, or I don't know what 3/4 would be other than 0.75, but 7 3/4. Is this a return to form for BioWare? In a sense, yes, because Mass Effect Legendary Edition notwithstanding, that is, their last 2 games were Andromeda and Anthem, which were definitely not good. And this is definitely a major step up from both of those. And this is a really solid game, I feel. It's like the good 7 out of 10 type. But you know what? I do kind of expect a bit better from BioWare. But this game is really solid, on the other hand. I don't know, it's a weird game. Maybe my opinion on it will change over time. But what do you guys think about this game? This game's been quite the divisive game, so please be respectful to each other in the comments. But yeah, Dragon Age The Veilguard. Do you guys like it, not like it? Have you guys played it, not played it? And if you haven't played it, do you guys want to play it, not want to play it? Anything about the game, let me know down below. Anyways, be sure to like the video, comment, subscribe, or I will leak your document. By the way, that leaked document about like the reviews for this game is absolute bullshit, but I just thought that would be a funny threat. Bye!